At number 93 on the Iconic 100 list is the 1970 Topps Pete Maravich rookie card. And here to talk with us today about this card is Nate at In Cardboard Veritas on Instagram. Nate, when I think of early 70s basketball cards, and I think of some of the most recognizable iconic cards from the era, I think of the Irving rookie, I think of from the late 60s, the Alcindor. Sometimes people forget, though, a little bit about this Maravich card. What do you think about where it came in, again at number 93, and what do you think about when you think about this card?
Yeah, I that feels about right to me in terms of the ranking. It's just a beautiful card with the vivid green background. In terms of just pure aesthetics, it's tough to top that one. And with him kind of in that kneeling position, almost looking kind of boyish, young Maravich. It just had come out of LSU with that astonishing college career, and the whole NBA world in front of him. So I think it's a really neat card. Certainly, one of the more revered vintage basketball cards. It's later vintage, being from the 70s, but absolutely one of the best 70s cards. And then the tall boy element certainly gives it a different feel. Those 69 and 70 top sets being the size that they were. But with that background, it really makes it stand out with the size as well. So it's a great card to display, among other things.
Yeah, I think it's a great card to display. The other thing that's really, I think, important to recognize about it is that, you mentioned this tall boy aspect to it. In 1969, you got a couple of cards that are really important from that first tall boy white set. People think about it like as the white border set with little characters on each of the corners. You've got the Alcindor rookie, and you've got the number 1 card, which is the first Laker card of Wilt. And those two cards are both really iconic, recognizable, and important and historical to basketball. But the 1970 set is in my opinion, and everybody's got their different opinions on this, the 1970 set's really a glorious set. It's got these beautiful colors, very vibrant, and the color takes up a lot larger portion of the card. But what it doesn't have other than this Maravich, a card that people look at and say, now that's a really iconic card. You have to sort of think about for a second what the Wilt looks like, and think about for a second what the Alcindor looks like. Only the Maravich really kind of comes to my mind. But speaking of Maravich, I'm glad that he made the list, because there's been some thoughts from people recently about how his NBA career doesn't sort of stand the test of time in terms of his greatness. But you just mentioned his college years were some of the best college years ever. And then his life after that is really an interesting time. He's really like a very tragic figure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Really significant figure in the game overall. And really also one of the first great showmen, right? I mean, we kind of, you look at him and then you think about someone like Magic Johnson, probably who took real inspiration from Maravich's game with the passing style, and really kind of making it more than about just wins and losses and efficiency. He added such a dramatic flair to the way that he played, and I think that's something that has reverberated through the game. And just to address your point about the 1970 set, I'm right with you there. I really love the set. I think it's, if anything, a little underrated. I think it's just beautiful. I'm someone who really enjoys collecting color, the kind of great vivid colors and sets, and it just doesn't get much better than that one. I think the way you talked about it is exactly right, which is, it's maybe a little underrated because it lacks those really marquee rookies and really iconic cards that stand out other than the Maravich. But if you take each of those cards from that set on its own, they really are phenomenal. And yeah, the Wilt is a really neat card. The Alcindor second year with the yellow background is a great card. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of that set led by the Pistol Pete.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that I'd mention about this card would be that you're talking about that color, and I sort of had the imagery of it in my mind. This card and this set really, they struggle for well-centered cards. This is something that I feel like happens a lot, especially happens throughout cardboard a lot, but especially with these cards that are oversized. A lot of them have, various issues from a condition perspective, both because they were incredibly difficult to store, and also because I think in producing them, the printers probably encountered things that they didn't always encounter with the traditional sized cards. And so, finding this particular Maravich card in a high grade, as well as cards from '69 and